another edition of Survive to Thrive with me, Dr. Todd, giving you tips and tricks every single day to move you out of your life that might just be surviving into a life above. And today, we are going to discuss forging. Not like forging a signature, because that definitely does have a definition when we look at it, but being forged, like iron. And here's a concept. We had somebody the other day that was talking about falling back into old patterns. And this individual had attempted to make some really good changes in life, made some really good changes in life, and was really frustrated in the fact that they kind of fell off the wagon, so to speak, with the changes that they were making, and was just diving into this concept. I fell back into old patterns. And so we go through the concept, and a lot of times when we look at habits, we're talking about habits, and breaking bad habits or creating good habits takes repetition. It takes some time, and it takes some repetition to be able to do that. And when we're talking about breaking habits, like there's a habit that is bad, and we don't want that habit. It takes some time, but if you were to basically create some space by, I don't know, take like one of the bad habits of, for instance, like smoking. We all know that smoking's not good for you. Long term, it has bad implications, so we're going to say, hey, we want to take this habit of smoking and kick it to the curb. And it's often been known that if you actually create some space by dropping that habit, it's easy to fall back into. And some people talk about, well, you got to fill it up with something else, which I agree with to a certain extent. Meaning that when you actually open up space by killing a habit, it's got to be filled with a different habit. So a lot of times, like people with smoking, they have some space of usually when they would take time and go outside and hang out and have discussions with people, right? That's what most smokers do. It's actually going outside, having a social interaction, and doing deep breathing. Do it right now. You just smoked. All right. This is not about smoking. But what if that habit was actually replaced with a deep breathing exercise that you could do? And every time you had the urge to actually smoke, you went into this deep breathing exercise. No doubt that would be healthier. No doubt that would make an impact, and you're filling up that habit. But you see, here's the end of the story, so to speak, and then we'll walk through some tips and tricks that might make a difference in your world. But the end of the story is, once you change, whether it's in your body, whether it's in your connections with God, like once you see something a different way, I mean, you purpose, or you start going a different direction on some stuff, I'm of the mindset and belief that it's forged. So this concept of being able to fall back into old patterns is nothing more than a story that a lot of people create. It's a story. And it's a story because once you're in a pattern, once you've changed things, it's been forged. Now, being forged takes some time, doesn't it? And if we look at steel, once it's forged, can last thousands of years. So once you ingrained and forged a bad habit, man, it's tough. Sometimes it's really tough to actually unwind that because you have to forge something new. But once you've forged some good habits and you've fundamentally changed the way you operate, you're left with nothing more than a story if you're talking about falling back into old patterns. So take exercise. You want to change your body, and you go and hit the gym for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and you're making some really good changes, and then a friend invites you out for margaritas and burritos, and you're like, woohoo! Automatically, we go into this like, oh, I'm falling back in my old patterns, whereas you need to realize that 1 or 2 days does not mean that you're falling back into old patterns. What you've forged over the last 4, 6, 8 weeks worth of doing the work and doing the exercise cannot be broken. cannot be broken like that. Now, you could forge a new pattern, which is actually creating what? Taco Tuesdays with margaritas or something, which is arguably not a good habit, unless they're good tacos. But you could forge a new habit and get rid of the old one. You see, when we're talking about falling back into old habits, you literally have to forge those habits again, because your nervous system and your body wants to go the direction that you've actually created the new pattern. So the story that you're falling back into old habits is absolutely bullshit. It's actually creating old habits or creating old patterns again. Now, why would one create old habits again? Well, it's because it's what you're comfortable with. It's what you know. Oftentimes, creating new habits and new patterns and forging a new you comes with what? The unknown. It comes with the uncomfortable. It comes with things that you may not be astute to. Maybe you have to learn a little bit more. Take your body for an example. You want to make some changes, you may have to hire a personal trainer. You may have to get in and do some research and understand the body at a different level. Like, how does the body work? How does training work? What should I do to train? What should I do to shift myself out of plateaus? And you start to look at nutrition and start to learn all these types of things. It's not something easy. It's uncomfortable. If you want to accelerate that, you hire some expert in the field to help guide you and you learn from them. That's fine. But see, all of this comes together with forging new patterns. And you can't unlearn what you learn. And this is the point of today. You cannot fall back into bad habits. You can actually create those habits again and forge them so they're harder to break again. But there is no such thing. Once you've made a change, and this is kind of a blessing to hear if you listen to this, once you've made a change, that change is forged like steel is forged. It's pressure under time to create a new way. Literally, your nervous system has learned this new pattern. And they show this. It's called wind up. Neuroplasticity. Your body actually creates new neural pathways to do this. So if you've been doing this for so long, kick or kill the story that you're falling back into bad patterns, old patterns, to the curb, because you actually have to get into a new way of forging some things and getting back into a new pattern to be able to get back into that old pattern. It takes a lot of effort. This is not like, oh, I was climbing up the hill and I just fell backwards. That's a bunk story. So stop telling yourself the story that you're falling back into bad patterns and realize that you forged new patterns and you stick with that. And if you're not happy with the way they're forged, start changing those patterns today. And the question is, where is this showing up in your world? Where is it showing up? Is it in your body? Is it in your spiritual connections, your purpose, your mission, and whatever you're doing? Is it in a relationship that you've forged new patterns of a date night and you missed a date night one night and you think, oh, just fell back into old patterns? Is it in your workplace? Is it in your bank account, the way you spend? Don't know where it is for you. But if you're all the way listening to the end of this message was for you. It's resonating in some area in your life. So look at it, write about it today, put pen to paper and say, hey, this is where I've forged a new pattern over the last month, many months, even the last couple weeks. And I'm killing the story that I can fall back into old patterns that I didn't want to be. Meaning that you've been beaten down like iron, forged, beaten down under extreme temperatures and pressures to create a change. And there's no going back. There's literally no going back. If you look at steel, once it's forged, you can't get back to its original form. It's done. Even with amount of extreme temperatures and pressures, it'll look maybe like its original form, and you could do that, but chemically it's changed. Structurally it's changed. And your body and your life, your relationships, your connections spiritually each day are going to be different as you forge new things, and you can't go back. So kill the story that I'm falling back into old patterns and recognize what you do on a daily basis continues to forge you into a new you, up above and beyond what you used to be. Up above and beyond just surviving a day into a world of thriving, into a day of thriving, up and above where your body functions and works the way you want it to. Not perfect, but better than yesterday. Not perfect, but better than yesterday. And understand that you cannot go back to yesterday. You cannot even fall back into yesterday's habits without actually doing effort. There's no sort of gravity working on you and falling, but you could forge. You could forge old habits. You could forge old patterns again and ingrain those, which takes a lot of time and effort and energy. So why not just forge and continue to forge the good stuff that you want in your life? Continue to just forge, because if you're going to forge one way, you might as well forge positive instead of forge negative. All right, that's all I got for you today. In love and light, bringing you truths every day to move you out of just a world of surviving into thriving. We'll talk to you tomorrow.